Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Tees. With our inspirational tees, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Tees. Get some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Tees at dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Hey guys, this is Earnest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $EJames, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. Therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Let's deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys for coming in, checking out another episode of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube page, also to our Facebook page, and our podcast on Spotify or wherever you listen to your Audible podcast at. And I'm also going to tell you guys how you can win $100 from the podcast, but you got to stay until the end to find that out. All right. So we're going to jump right in. So today, just like every other day, we are blessed with a guest. Miss Roberta, how are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. And yourself?
I am doing good. I'm blessed to have you here. So first of all, let me say thank you for being here, because you could be anywhere doing anything else, but you took out time to be here with me and my guests and my listeners, and I definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for the invitation.
No problem. I had to send an invitation because I seen the work that you do, and I was very impressed and wanted to have a conversation with you. And so before I get caught up in my own conversation, let me start by allowing you to introduce yourself and tell the listeners who you are and what it is that you do.
Great. So my name is Roberta Axson. I am an educator. I am a mentor, transformational speaker, and the founder of Teen Moms to Beyond, where we supply resources as well as support for former teen mothers, as well as women who are born to teen moms.
All right. Okay. So now what I was saying was I seen the work that you do, and I was very interested in it, because I don't know if you know my backstory, how I even came to begin to come into the podcast space. But I am a fatherless daughter advocate. And that's how I, kind of got into the whole Instagram thing, which led me to being a guest on podcasts, which led me to starting my own podcast. So that being said, there is a statistic that says that fatherless children, or most fatherless children, will give birth to fatherless children. whether that be daughters or sons. I know the daughters actually give birth, but still parent, the children who are fatherless will parent fatherless children. And I don't know that statistic to necessarily be 100% true. I was going to ask you about that, because I know that, if there are teen moms, of course there are teen fathers also. But in your experience with working with teen moms, would that be, or should I say, how much of that percentage wise would be true, that the fatherless daughters somewhat find themselves in that same predicament?
Well, really, I kind of found myself more so realizing that this year when I did another interview regarding fatherless daughters, because sometimes we don't look at the root. We look more at the outcome of
Mm,
people choices and situations. And so as I began to look and then begin to study just within my own environment, I could see that there was definitely some truth to that. Whereas we were making decisions, because I know just with my own situation, I was told that that the person literally told me that they loved me, and I had never been told by a man that they love me, that he loved me. And so not being affirmed, not having that identity from that male, it does causes you to make decisions that are not destiny. They're in the
mm,
moment. And so that is where my work comes in, because again, being a former teen mom, we have resources and support systems set up for the mom to be, the expected mom. Once a person gets pregnant, but as a teenager, we have all the necessary support. But what about when that child is one? What about when that child starts school? What about when that child is in middle school, high school? Where's the support at that point? Because at that, at most of the time they are former teen moms because they're aging as their child ages. So I
mm.
just see that we have to look at the whole dynamics of the family and see where the dysfunction is. And so that's where I really want to do my work, is to just be able to go in and assess and then be able to implement what I've assessed, of course, along with support, because it's going to take, like we say, the village. So it has to be the right village, because we're doing work, but as we come together, just like even with your platform, and having the different guests on to speak to those different situations, those different areas, it's going to help families, and it's going to break the cycles, because that's what we want to do, is not to allow those broken children that get pregnant, because again, you have dysfunction because you don't see yourself as value, as worth. So you're making choices that are not valuable, that are not likely to bring success to you. And so that's how we spiral out. And then of course you're judged sometimes because you're ashamed to ask for the help, and then you're judged because you don't ask for the help.
Right. And that was one of the things I wanted to touch on real quickly, because I know that if we are to be successful with helping, the teen moms, one of the things that we have to have, or they have to have, is support. And so when I think about it, how much support do most of these young women get from their families? Because that, I would think that would be the first, first line of defense, would be, you find yourself in this predicament, that hopefully you can fall back on your families. But I do also know, like we mentioned earlier, that a lot of times it's a pattern. So chances are that if you are teen mom, maybe your mom was a teen mom, and how that works. So when we're talking about, just the young ladies that you've come in contact with, how much involvement, do the families play in helping the young girls out for the most part?
Well, Ernest, I really think it's gonna vary, because again, with shame in those choices that well, I call it untimely choice.
Mm,
The untimely choice of getting pregnant and having the baby. So there's gonna be some shame with that child as well as with the family. And so sometimes that shun or the embarrassment, they're pushed to just really isolate. So they don't get all of the support that they need to have that full participation in bringing forth that child in a healthy environment. So that's where again you're looking at people that are outside of the home sometimes
Mm.
become that support because it's not directly the family. Now my mom and my mom's husband, my stepdad, they were supportive, but it was still limited because again my mom had me at 16 and I had my first son at 15.
Mm.
So it was still a limit. There were limitations there to what they could do because of just her upbringing, having me at an early age. So again, the continuation of generational cycles and curses and patterns and behaviors, we have to again assess the root causes. What is the reasoning behind it? And then being able to really look at ourselves and own our part of it. And sometimes parents don't want to do that. So that's when they're like, hands off, I raised my child. It's a lot of dynamics that go into that. And so again, being able to get in there and support them. And that's why me being an educator, when I'm able to take it from a teacher's standpoint, to where if you're educating and you're allowing that child to develop their identity, their self-worth, their self-esteem, then they can believe and go forth to do better at being at in their parenting. Because sometimes we have to remember some people don't have the best of parents.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have the unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And we don't want to always assess that. And we don't always want to have those real conversations as it relates to that because sometimes you just don't want to step on the toes. But then you look at the broken systems because those children will become adults. My son is in his
Mm-hmm.
30s now. And he shared with me, mom, looking around sometimes when I do look at other people that were born to a teen mother, he said, I'm different. I'm different. But again, being able to self-assess, and
Mm-hmm.
realizing what I needed and then asking for it. Because again, with pride and shame, we're not always going to ask for what we need because we don't know how to ask. We don't know what we need.
Right. Yeah, and just to go back to something that you said a little earlier, I can attest that sometimes our children just get caught up in situations, and as parents, we don't always have the answers. So my second oldest son actually became a teen father. His I think it was his last year of high school. And is sometimes as a parent you go through your different emotions too, as not necessarily trying to shame the child, but as a parent, you take some responsibility of that, of where did I go wrong and what didn't I do,
The
you know.
disappointment, the
Yeah,
disappointment.
yeah, and especially like I know one of the things that we talked about, with my son was because we had the conversations. We had the conversations. We had the, don't be out here, doing this and that. And if you do, this is, how you protect yourself, and thinking about, the decisions that you're making and all of that. We had all those conversations, and one morning we getting up to go to work, and there's a knock on the door, and it's a police officer, but the
Wow.
police officer was the young lady's father, and it's like 8 o'clock in the morning, and so we knew who he was, and like, hey, what's going on? And it's like, yeah, did your son tell you that our daughter's pregnant? And it's like,
Wow.
that's how we found out, and
What a
it's
morning message.
yeah, and so even with that, so just as parents, there's some disappointment and shame that we bear. So looking at the daughter and even the son, there's some disappointment on their end, as like, okay, what mistakes have I made, or what did I do, or where do I find myself? um luckily for my son, in our situation, we do have a supportive family as well as the young lady. So, we're able to, take care of and lend a hand and help, with my daughter, with my granddaughter. She's about 7 now, I think. She's a big girl now. But, we were able to help them with that process and give them time to learn as well as teach them. But like you said, everyone doesn't have that
They don't.
opportunity, and sometimes, as we mentioned earlier, it's a continuation of coming from a broken home, and now you're starting a broken home, and your parents can't give you what they don't have. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? And they may not have had the support, they may not have had the teaching, they might not have had the resources. So if they didn't have it, they can't necessarily give it, to the next generation. And that's why I'm so glad about the work that you do, because you're able to reach out, and fill in that void where the parents, after they've done all they can, that is where you and your organization comes in to help, with the young girls. So let's talk a little bit more about the organization itself. I know before we got started, you was mentioning some things that you want to do in the future, but let's talk about some of the things that you're doing now with the organization, and then also the things in the future that you're looking forward to coming up.
Well, basically, to me, the most important thing is to connect. Because again, there are no islands. There are no islands when it comes to parenting, successful parenting. So again, my organization is for former teen mothers, as well as women who were born to teen mothers, because again, those voids and those gaps are still there, even though they may
Mhm.
not have continued the cycle.
Mhm.
So therefore, I am working with other organizations where they may work with the pregnant mom. And so we are providing, making sure that they understand education. Education is key. And also, Ernest, I am a registered nurse, because that's a testimony to where when I was a teen mom, I was being taken care of by medical assistants in the doctor's office, and I thought they were nurses. So I ended up going into healthcare because of the way they treated me. They
Mhm.
didn't treat me, like I was a disease. They treated me with compassion, with care. And so I wanted to pay it forward to do the service to others. So I've, been a nurse almost 30 years, but I teach healthcare science and public education. So I do get to spend time with high school students and educate them and empower them. Because when we do that, then we give them identity, we give them esteem, we give them value, we give them worth, and we give them time. Because when people see that they're important enough for you to invest in them, then that's going to make them look at themselves a little different as well. Because of, again, for me making the untimely choices that I did when I was a teenager, looking back, I didn't have anyone that was holding me accountable and affirming me. And so when we do that for the young people, and we do it consistently, because that's the key word, it's not a every now and then show up. It's I am here and I see you. I am watching you.
Mhm.
I need to hear from you. And so I like being able to do that with my students. For the past 18 years, I've been an educator. So I think that's number one, is to really inform. Because a lot of times when girls get pregnant, they don't even know what a uterus is. They don't know the function of a uterus. They don't know what a fallopian tube is. They don't know the function of ovaries and a fallopian tube. So for us to educate and inform and empower them, then they can see themselves differently, because they'll understand the purpose, they'll understand the function, and they'll understand the worth and value of not just themselves, but their entire self.
Yeah, and I like one thing that you said, that you guys treat former teen moms, right, who may have be adults now, right?
They
So one of the
are.
things, yeah, one of the things that I before I started being a fatherless daughter advocate, one of the things I did, I had a male mentoring program. And in my male mentoring program, that was one of my things was I try to reach the young men within the high school age, but then also reach out to those who may be out of school, because that same thing is, if you don't get the lessons that you need as a young man, then you turn into an adult man who still don't have those lessons. Right? Who still
Exactly.
need those lessons. And a lot of times we forget that, we think, oh, you grown now, but we wonder why as adults we do some of the things that we do that may seem childish and like you should know better. No, they shouldn't know better because they never was taught better. And so I'm glad that you all do that, to be able to reach out to the mothers who may have been teen mothers, who may not be a teen anymore, but still need that same support that they never got as a teen. You know,
And not allowing them to be shamed. Just like what you just said. Think about the young men that you mentor and how comfortable they felt sharing that, hey, I didn't learn my multiplications in third grade, fourth grade. I'm still struggling. I don't know how to tell time. I don't know how to write in cursive. But again, allowing that safe space to where they can share, and then we they get them to where they need to be. We assess where they are, but then where are they going is the priority. It's not about where they are really. It's about where they're going. And so that's what I tell my students. It's the way you come to me is not important to me. It's the way you leave. What did
mm,
I do to empower you to make you better? Because you're going to make me better just by being in my presence. But
right,
I need
right.
to make you better. And I need to make sure when you leave me that you are equipped. And so again, and then not shaming them because that what they didn't learn. And see, again, that's a part of my testimony because of the background and trauma. There are so many learning gaps there that it's taken me longer to do things, but to become a resilient person and not giving up so that I can go and share my testimony and say, listen, you can do it. I am here to walk with you. I'm here to support you and really be there because again, we don't see that. We see how people abandon, we see how people reject people, but then what are we going to do differently? How can we do things differently?
Yeah, and I'm so glad that and and I always say this, that there's a reason for everything, and sometimes we go through things, and one of the quotes that I always say is, sometimes God gives us things, put us in positions, or allow us to find ourselves in positions, and we have to make a choice of whether we're going to be a victim or a victor over that situation. And those of us who are able to come out on the other side as victors, it then becomes our responsibility to go back and help those who are still victims. And so that's what I love about your story, because you were a victim at one point to this circumstance that you were in, and you overcame it, and then went back and began to help those who are still in the midst of it. And I really appreciate that. So we were talking, like I said, before we started recording, and you were mentioning about, the future of the program, and some things that you guys want to do even for next year. Can you share some of that with us?
Oh, yes. Well, we're in the beginning stages of planning the first Teen Moms to Beyond experience. So this will be where I have speakers because my 5 pillars are self-care, time management, money management,
Mhm.
personal development, and professional development. And I just see that in sequential order because first and foremost, you have to learn how to take care of yourself. And you cannot take care of yourself if you don't value yourself. So being
Mhm.
able to model that, teach that, demonstrate that to the women in the group, because again, as a teen mom, you feel like you're always catching up or you're left out, you're left behind. So you don't make the time that you need to take care of yourself. And it's important that you're teaching your children to take care of themselves. So if you're not doing it, they're not learning it. And so time management, you cannot have resources to steward if you don't steward time. Time is a resource just like money. So I think that by learning how to organize your thoughts, your days, your plans, your goals. It's important because some people are never taught that. They're never taught that. I don't have my journal here, but journals are everywhere. Planners, writing down, so that I have a focus. And some people, again, they don't know that. So being able to teach that. So each month, I actually have guests come on in my private Facebook group, Teen Moms to Beyond. I have guests coming on that speak to the pillars. In fact, last night I had a travel advocate on that came on and talked about PTO, plan travel often. And it's not just going out of the country or out of the state. It could be just going to get a hotel, traveling just wherever you decide, the destination where you decide. And so that's a part of self-care. And so I've had money management. We've discussed counting the coins. I had a guest on sharing about that because, again, we can look at our glasses half full or half empty. My first job, I made $3.85 back in 1990. I knew that wasn't enough to feed me and my son. So I had to do something. Some people are still struggling because they're saying, I don't have enough. I ain't gonna never, I can't do this. I can't. But no, let me look at these 2 pennies or these $2 and see what I can do. How can I maximize them? And then personal development, you cannot be a professional until you're in touch with your personal self. So personal development is so important. We're a three-part being: spirit, soul, body. So we cannot just feed our bodies, our soul, and not feed our spirit. We cannot just only feed our spirit and not feed our soul and our body. So being in tune, being self-aware of who I am and why I am in the earth. You know, when I found out about the way, the circumstances surrounding my birth, I could choose to either focus on how I got here or why I'm here. So I chose to focus on why I am here and to do the works, the greater works, why I am here. And so as I learn who I am in personal development, then I can become the professional. So, and this is what I teach in the group, the 5 pillars that are in the journal that I wrote for former teen mothers, because it's your journey. And we have to be bold enough and courageous enough to tell our story. No one can tell our testimony, our story, the way we can. And we cannot be afraid. Yeah, there are some chapters and there are some pages in there that I would not wish to share. But if I need to share where it will really benefit someone else, then so be it. I must share it.
All right, all right, and I like that you focus on the personal development, because I know last year was an intentional journey for me into personal development and self development, and it definitely has helped me a whole lot, even to get me to the point where I am now. Being comfortable behind the mic, being comfortable, to be, on a Zoom, not the Zoom, but on a video or whatever, because I've begun to do workshops and things like that. And I've always, not always, but I've spoken, in front of people as a minister. So I've always done that. But still have had some part of me that was still self-conscious, because my voice, I have a light voice, and it was even lighter when I was younger. And so I was often made fun of for my voice. And so one of my mechanisms that I use to be made fun of was to not talk, right? And so I was really quiet. I'm still quiet, but I talk a lot more now, obviously.
I'm glad that you talk more.
But it took some work for me to get comfortable with my own voice, because
Yes.
of the things that I went through as a child. And still I would have all these thoughts that I wanted to get out, but it was like, well, if I say something, then it's, people, I might get made fun of, whatever. So going through that development, that personal development, that journey, has helped me a whole lot. So I'm really glad that you guys, focus on that with the young ladies, because like you said, definitely starting with your self-worth and learning that you are worthy and that you are more than your situation,
Yes.
to be able to develop now that I know that I'm worthy, let me develop this worthiness and see what it can become, you know. And so I'm just glad that you guys the work that you guys are doing is just dynamic, just hearing you talking about it. And I know I won't be there, but I definitely can't wait till you guys have your first big thing, and I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of young ladies that benefit from that. Um, but so going to a little something that you said before, just listen to your things that you were talking about. Let's talk a little bit about choices, change, and commitment, right?
Mm.
Because I know that starting off, right? Just starting off to even to be in that position was some choices that was made, you know, and coming from the man's point of view, talking to young boys, you know, one of the things I always say is two things that makes you an adult, right? That's responsibility and respect. And the more responsible you are, the more respect you'll get, you know. And so
Wow.
being
True.
young and making those not necessarily best decisions that in some point, you know, maybe a little irresponsible, you know, there are some things that we have to learn about, you know, making choices. So when you're speaking with the young girls about, you know, even some of the choices that they have already made, you know, and the consequences of those choices, how do you teach them, you know, to, okay, from here on, let's focus this way when it comes to making our choices?
And I like the way you said that from here on. That is why it's called Teen Moms to Beyond. Beyond the past,
Mm-hmm.
beyond the statistics, beyond the situation, beyond the choice. So, yes, the former things have passed away. It's
Mm-hmm.
beyond. So, yes, the choices, the changes, and the commitment. First of all, acknowledging that you and owning that you made a choice that you were not ready for.
Mm.
You so how can you change that now? What can you do moving forward? Because you can't go
Right.
back and undo the choice. So the changes now around that choice. What are you gonna do? Because you have to own it. And believe it or not, Ernest, a lot of people don't want to own it. It's everyone else's fault. No accountability. Well, I didn't know. What he did, he didn't, she did, she didn't. So that was a choice, untimely choice, but it was a choice. So now I have to sit down and focus on how can I change my circumstances to make it better. And
Mm-hmm.
then be committed because again, consistency and commitment is going to help you to get that change, that outcome where you made that untimely choice.
Yeah, and one of the things that I teach when it comes to choices is I teach um, decisions and choices, right? And so decisions are definite and choices are conditional. But
That's
you make a
good.
decision first, and then your choices, you evaluate your choices on how they align with your decision,
That's
right?
good.
So if you make a decision that you're going to finish high school, right? You may be some young ladies or young kids may be the first person to finish high school in their
And
families, right?
yes.
And so you make a decision, I'm going to finish high school. That's your decision. And
Mm-hmm.
so that decision is definite, which means the decision does not change. But so now when you're faced with choices, you have to look at how your choices align with your decision. So when you have senior ditch day, or you know your friends just want to hang out and want you to ditch school, or you know put off your homework to go to a party or something like that, and you're faced with those choices. Well, how does those choices align with your decision? Because your decision
Exactly.
can change. Your choices can change, but your decision doesn't change. And so if the decision is to finish school and you know with honors or whatever, just graduate, then that means you have to focus. So no, I can't go to that party. No, I can't put off not doing my homework. I have to make the choice that aligns with my decision. And so as young parents, whether it's male or female, those are some lessons that they have to learn how to make not only decisions for now, but decisions for in the future, and how
Mhm.
being able to evaluate those choices with how they align with those decisions. So
I like that. Destiny decisions. Destiny. I
yeah.
like that. And even with what you just shared, it goes, in the opposite direction where I said change, where I say choices, change, and commitment. You're saying be committed, and then you have the change, and then you have the choices. Are they
Mhm.
supporting? So I really like that. I like that point of view.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm so glad to have you on, man. I really appreciate you being here and being able to just talk to you. And it's really eye opening. And I'm glad I came across your platform. I don't remember where I came across it at, but
Well, I am glad too, because guess what? We're doing similar work. So again, it goes back to the community, the village. We have to be together, unified to get the work done. It can't be isolated, and we can't be on an island. We really need each other for the works, the greater works.
Right, right. And that's why I love this podcast, and I started this, my podcast with the energy of, thinking of wherever we're hurting, you know what I'm saying, that I can find somebody in that area,
Hmm.
and so I know as teen parents, teen moms, that is an area where there are young ladies that is hurting, and so I'm glad to be able to come across you and have you on to be able to talk to them and offer a ray of hope, and not only just, by what you teach, but by what you live, because you were the example and you are the example. It doesn't matter how you started, but it's how you finish, and
Exactly.
so I'm glad, so happy to have you on. So, Miss Roberta, I'm going to let you have the last say. I'm going to let you leave us with whatever you want to leave us with, some nugget or whatever. Also, your social media handles and platforms, and definitely where they can get the journal, right?
Okay.
And so I'll let you think about that real quick for a couple of seconds. To my listeners, I promise you guys I was going to tell you how you can win $100 from the podcast, and that is by becoming a super subscriber and entering our super subscriber contest. What does that mean? That means you must subscribe to our YouTube page, our Facebook page, and our Spotify podcast. And once you have subscribed to all three, then you must text the word win to 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100 from the podcast. You're listening already, you're watching already, you might as well subscribe and win some money, right? And the contest is ongoing and it's random, which means I can pull your name out of a hat at any time on any day, and it never stops. So you always have a chance to win. Okay. So again, join our super subscriber contest by subscribing to our YouTube page, our Facebook page, and our Spotify podcast. Then after that, text the word win to 866-326-0730 to qualify to win $100. So, Miss Roberta, I'm going to let you have the last say. First of all, let me say again, I thank you so very much for taking out your time to be here on the podcast to share your wisdom with us. And definitely, you could have been doing anything, but you're here with me, and I definitely appreciate it. So I will let you have the last word. The floor is yours.
Well, I would just like to share with your listeners to own the story. Own your own story. It is yours. The pages, the chapters, the words. Everything about your story is authentic to you, it's true to you. So own your story. It is okay. Your story is still being written. Your story is still being written. So the journey is up to you. It's up to you how you take the journey. You don't have to run on the journey. You can take your time at whatever pace, because it's your race. So that's what I would like to leave with them at this time.
All right,
And
all right.
And they can actually find the Teen Moms to Beyond journal on Amazon. So it's basically a journey. It's a journey of your own story, being able to document it. And it's based on the 5 pillars: self-care, time management, money management, personal development, and professional development. And so you can find me on Facebook. That's my page. My public page is Roberta Axson. Instagram is RA_Axson. And then also I have a private community for former teen mothers, women who were born to teen mothers, not necessarily that they are a teen mom, but they were born to a teen mom. And then I have supporters in the group as well of the former teen moms.
All right. So again, thank you, Miss Roberta, for
Thank
being
you.
on. To everybody, to all my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. And remember, this is the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and our mission is to help you guys to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Until next time, we will see you guys next week. Be blessed. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866-326-0730. That's 866-326-0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.